Your top stories this evening, sponsored by Courts, bringing value home. COI chairman submits report to the president. More fearful for the office of the president than his own life, says President Granger. Jagdeo says 2020 elections has to be a must-win for the PPP. Argentine professionals coming at the weekend to help restore priceless Guyanese artwork. And GWI billing system non-functional. Report on new billing system to be submitted soon. HGP Nightly News begins now. Good evening to our viewers here in Guyana and online. I'm Travis Chase with the Thursday, August 31 edition of the HGP Nightly News. Here's what's happening. Following the conclusion of that commission of inquiry into the alleged plot to kill the president, the report has been submitted to the head of state. Those involved were tight-lipped about the recommendations. More from Jevon Vickery.
Chairman of the commission, retired Assistant Commissioner of Police Paul Slow, confirmed to the media that recommendations were submitted to the relevant authorities pertaining to actions considered appropriate in light of the findings of the commission. Mr. Slow further noted that the terms of reference of the commission had been achieved, but he didn't think it prudent to disclose anything about the recommendations.
No, I can't share the recommendations, but there were several recommendations as the terms would have indicated that a part of the mandate was to make recommendations, and recommendations have been made.
The chairman stated that all the evidence that came before the commission were reviewed and that the appropriate steps will be taken in due course. Meanwhile, President David Granger was asked by the media about whether he was surprised about the details which were revealed during the hearings. This is what the head of state had to say.
Newspaper reports sometimes, might not be exactly what the commission would report. So I will make a judgment after I've read the commission's report.
The terms of reference included investigating and reviewing the full range of actions and responses of the Guyana Police Force to the reports and the extent to which such actions were conducted or executed with due diligence. Jevon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Jevon. Meanwhile, President David Granger says he was more fearful for the office of the president than his own life when he learnt of the threats to assassinate him, adding that it is important that such threats be thoroughly investigated. Rodin James reports.
Now that the Presidential Commission of Inquiry into the alleged assassination plot has wrapped up its work, and the report is in the hands of the President, Mr. Granger clarified the reason for the commission. The President was specifically asked if he was fearful for his life when he learned of the plot to assassinate him.
I'm fearful for the office of presidency, my personal safety. I have no gun here. I think that the office of president is one that should enjoy the protection of the security services.
The President noted that once a threat of this magnitude is made, it must be investigated.
Any reports of threats against or any risk to the President's life or the life of the immediate relatives of the President, such as the President's, the First Lady or the President's children, deserve to be properly and thoroughly investigated.
Opposition leader Bar Jagdeo had described the Commission of Inquiry as a waste of time and the taxpayers' dollars, stating that when he was president, he was receiving threats but never launched a COI. But Mr. Jagdeo had several persons locked up and charged for similar offenses, or lesser, like a middle finger gesture, but yet contends that he was not sure why Mr. Granger was fearful.
It's not a question of fear. I think it's good practice to ensure that the president is safe. And if there's a threat to that safety, it should be investigated.
Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
You're watching the HGP Nightly News. Opposition leader Bar Jagdeo blazes the government at a Sugar Union rally at Enterprise. Royden James was there.
Mr. Jagdeo was the featured speaker at a rally arranged by the Sugar Union GAU on Wednesday at Enterprise on the East Coast, where he was billed to speak on issues affecting the sugar industry. but the opposition leader belted the government instead. He started off by making a mockery of the Prime Minister by stating that Mr. Nagamutu has no portfolio other than that of a junior secretary to Minister Harmon. The opposition leader's attacks then focused on some of Mr. Granger's ministers.
And let me tell you, Truckman was a mediocre lawyer, and he was a mediocre speaker, and he's even worse as a minister. Useless, totally useless. He hopscotches around technical issues because he's incapable of understanding them. Over a year ago, he and Jordan went to Uganda on a learning visit. We need people who can guide us, not who are now learning about things.
Though some of his remarks were distasteful, Mr. Jagdeo received much applause from a packed crowd of PPP supporters. The calculation of oil revenues was another issue with which the opposition leader did not find favor. Listen to the type of rhetoric Mr. Jagdeo used.
Now, only a jackass would do that sort of analysis.
Jagdeo said that the government is delusional and is driven by malice because the administration has no real strategy on how to run the country.
If you give them the next 10 years, we're not going to get jobs in this country. We'll go back to where we were under Burnham. Decumulation of wealth, accumulation of debt, economic malaise, as is happening already. Because when you have a president who believes that we can drive the future of this country, create opportunities for young people by selling plantain chips and something else on the side, then we have no hope. And when you have ministers who don't even understand their sectors.
He told his supporters that 2020 general elections has to be a must-win for the PPP.
We cannot allow them to stay there very long, because if we do that, then God helps this country.
The opposition leader says that everything this government does can safely be termed nonsense. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Chief Executive of the Guyana Water Cooperative, Dr. Richard Van West Charles, says the water company's billing system is non-functional. Javon Vickery sat down with the CEO and he reports now.
The issues in the water company's billing system have resulted in the late and, in some cases, non-delivery of bills to customers. This has placed the water company in an awkward position. Chief Executive of the Guyana Water Inc., Dr. Richard Van West Charles, says the water company is looking to revamp its current billing system.
We acknowledge there are problems with the billing because what we're trying to do in the meantime, the billing system is a very old system. So we are in the process of exploring with a number of companies which one of the systems can serve us best.
The chief executive said that a team from the water company traveled to the United States recently to get a first-hand look at a more advanced billing system. According to the chief executive, their findings will be made known shortly.
That will help us to be more efficient. The issue is, though, we've had some issues with bill deliverers not delivering the bills on time. And so what we're doing now, we've zoned the country and we are having the public informed within which period they should be receiving the bill within this zone.
Dr. Van West Charles said that following the zoning exercise, consumers will be notified of the timing of the distribution of their bills.
Additionally, with the new app that is coming out, you will be able to check your balance. What is your balance? And with the website, you'll be able to check your balance on the website. So there should be no excuse. You've got a phone, you've got the app, you should be able to check your balance on your phone. Or if you go to the website, as I said, it's due to be completed within another month. You know, these things, technology, sometimes I say a month and then it's a month and a half. But our latest information is that within another month.
In the meantime, consumers who have not received their bills are asked to visit any GWI office to inquire about payment options and current charges. Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Jeffon. The Guyana Agricultural and General Workers Union, GAWU, is not letting up the fight to have the government reverse its decision about closure of estates in the Sugar Belt. Rodin James reports.
In less than 4 months' time, GAISUCO will be moving to close a few sugar estates across the country. This is a done deal. But the Sugar Union is still campaigning hard for a reversal of that decision. So much so that GAWU's president, Mr. Komal Chand, reminded East Coast sugar workers about the coalition's promises for sugar while campaigning.
The government promised that they will turn around the sugar industry. They promised that sugar is too big to fail. They knew all about sugar, they said, when they were campaigning. And they talk about the different solutions.
Mr. Chan was addressing a GAWU-sponsored rally at Enterprise on the East Coast on Wednesday. Although several countries are divesting interests in sugar because of factors such as the price on the world market, the PPP parliamentarian is optimistic about a bright future for sugar.
That sugar must remain. There must be no closure of the estates. And could you imagine that inquiry that started in July and completed in October 2015, the government has paid no heed to the recommendations.
Mr. Chan is still questioning the reason for the closure of the estates, even as the government said that GAISUCO is a bankrupt corporation. Chan feels that the government is positioned to write off GAISUCO's debt and save the industry.
Why they want to hurt the sugar industry? Although they might have recognized in hurting the sugar workers what repercussions it will have in the economy, but they don't care once they get their objective.
When opposition leader Bar Jagdeo spoke on the issue, he told the gathering that while the government is spending, they are not doing so on the right things. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Opposition leader Bar Jagdeo continues to lament that this administration is merely concerned with serving its own interests and not those of the nation as a whole. Here's Kristen Macklingam with more.
In what appeared to be a campaign speech, opposition leader Bar Jagdeo lashed out at the government for wasting the funds in the country's coffers to satisfy personal interests in order to live lavish lifestyles. His remarks came Wednesday night during a GAWU-sponsored rally at Enterprise Village, East Coast, Demerara.
But when you look at the $250 billion budget, where the money is going, $40 billion of increase in recurrent expenditure, non-productive, wasteful expenditure, over $100 million on building a fence around the office of the president, millions more spent on fleets of vehicles for ministers and drivers and everybody else.
According to the opposition leader, the majority of the population is feeling the squeeze as a direct result of the administration's unwarranted spending of taxpayers' monies.
They've decided to insure ministers and their families to spend $38 million a year to give insurance, health insurance for ministers and their families. They sent a minister to Ireland for medical benefits. It cost us more than $4 million. In the 12 years I was president, they did not spend on health for me $4 million as president.
Mr. Jagdeo used the opportunity to compare executive spending during the period when he functioned as head of state with that of the coalition since it took office in 2015.
The president travels by jet now. You know, they hire aircraft, $40 million on a single trip. They take large numbers of people. That's where the money is going. And so it was hypocritical when the president just handed over 3 buses and said, "Oh, I love the children of Guyana." And I pointed out at one of my press conferences that they took away $1.6 billion from the children of this country when they removed the $10,000 grant.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingam.
You're watching the HGP Nightly News. Welcome back. A well-established learning institution is today celebrating their many successes at CSEC. Javon Vickery was there at the institution and spoke with a few of the successful students.
Several students of the Morgans Learning Institute achieved passes in the areas of mathematics and English. Distinctions were also obtained in a number of business subjects. Some of these very students sat the exams at Forms 2, 3, and 4. They told Nightly News that the time devoted by both teachers and themselves proved successful.
Sometimes teachers would test us on our skills. Yes, so those were some of the challenges at that time.
Some of the obstacles, like sometimes you have some schoolwork to do and lessons work to do.
My advice to them would be to do it and believe in yourself, and don't let others' opinion make you feel less of yourself.
This is not the first time the Morgans Learning Institute would have produced students who sat the CSEC exam before they're scheduled to do so. Believe it or not, preparation for the students were between 6 months to 1 year. One parent had this message.
With God, all things are possible. And when Mr. Morgan approached us about Lorenzo, we were shying away from the fact, but with thought and prayer, we allowed him to do this. And with reaping this success, we've realized that it wasn't a bad challenge after all. And to parents out there, if your child has the ability, let them do what they want to do.
The institution has over 300 students from schools countrywide. Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
An Argentine arts restoration team is expected to arrive in Guyana over the weekend to help preserve Guyana's patrimony and cultural artistic work. More from Kristen Macklingam.
The arts in all forms significantly adds to the intellectual well-being of the population, and the anticipated contribution and training by the Argentine team that will work to help Guyana restore artwork at the National Gallery is timely. This is according to Professor Al Crichton of UG's Department of Language and Cultural Studies.
We know that the National Gallery of Art has a collection, known as the National Collection, and that has several pieces. In fact, the National Collection started in 1951, and since then work has been collected, and we know that there are many works in that collection that would need to be restored.
UG's Professor Al Crichton. Professor Crichton, who has spent decades as a critic and teacher in the area of arts, noted that the restoration of the artwork in question is necessary, especially since Guyana has no full-time qualified conservationist.
This project goes further than simply restoring a number of works of art, because it is sustainable. It's a project that is sustainable. It means that after the Argentines have left, there will be Guyanese who are capable of carrying on that work and doing that work.
According to the professor, it is a sad situation to have to depend solely on skilled personnel from other countries to bring their expertise to Guyana, but it is expected that with the training provided by the Argentine team, Guyana can have its own professionals in this field in due course.
It's a national project that is going to, in a very direct way, benefit the nation in terms of restoring artworks. And at the same time, while the project is going on, we have the attention of the media, who will ensure that the population of Guyana as a whole is aware of what is going on. And this in itself brings the works of art more into the public domain.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingam.
Thank you for staying tuned to the HGP Nightly News. I'm Colin Abrams with this edition of the HGP Sportscast. We tell you now in cricket, the Jamaica Tallawahs pounced on the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots on Wednesday evening at Sabina Park, Jamaica. The Tallawahs won the match by 41 runs and will come up against the Ghana Amazon Warriors on Friday evening. More in this report.
The Patriots won the toss and elected to field, but the Tallawahs' opening pair, Lindell Simmons and Glenn Phillips, startled their teammates when Simmons was bowled by Sheldon Cottrell on the first ball of the game. The new partnership by Kumar Sangakkara, 35, and Glenn Phillips, 32, harvested 67 runs by the end of the power play for the Tallawahs. High scorers for the Tallawahs were Sangakkara, 69, Rovman Powell, 43, and Phillips, 31. The Tallawahs ended the innings with 157 for 5. When the Patriots responded, a similar shocker gripped Sabina Park when Chris Gale was adjudged LBW in the first over of a snorter by man of the match O'Shane Thomas, who bowled with venom and captured 3 wickets. Apart from a brisk display of power hitting by Evan Lewis, the Patriots batsmen were on a steady march back to the pavilion and ended their innings on 116 off 17.5 overs. The Ghana Amazon Warriors are set to come up against Jamaica Tallawahs on September 1 at Sabina Park, Jamaica. The Warriors must win this match in order to compete for the CPL 2017 Series Finals.
The Inter-Ministries Government Agency State Ball Cricket Competition that was set for last Sunday has now been rescheduled for this Friday at the National Cultural Centre Tarmac, starting at 9 hours. Teams are asked to take note that registration has closed. However, late registration can be done through James Lewis on telephone number 628-1656 or 666-5857. Among the teams that have registered so far are Melanie, Better Hope, Cummings Lodge, West Dem, Eccles, Craig, Enmore, Enterprise, and Plaisance, NDC. Now in basketball, Georgetown Amateur Basketball Association Powerade Malta Supreme Rainforest Water First, Second, and Under 23 leagues continued at Burnham Court on Wednesday when Cobras lost to Eagles in a nail-biter and Sonics beat UG in a low-scoring encounter. Stanford Howard has more on this.
Game 1 was another thrilling match in the basketball league when Eagles nipped the game from Cobras with an 83-82 win. In the first quarter, Cobras were 23-12. By the second quarter, Eagles upped their game with good defense, passes, and scoring, and was just trailing by a 1-point margin, 42-41. But it was the third quarter when Eagles made the turnaround and led from the front by a 16-point margin. Cobras then tried to regain some momentum, but the Eagles held on for the win. Top scorer for the Eagles was Travis Belgrave with 20 points and 1 3-pointer. Game 2 turned out to be a low-scoring encounter for the first division. Sonics clinched this one from the UG Trojans 43-31. Sonics led from jump ball, with UG Trojans just scoring 3 points in the first quarter. The Trojans never gained any strength nor momentum throughout the game. Top scorer for Sonics was Trevor Smith with 18 points, along with Junior Lovell with 6 points. For the HGP Sports, I'm Stanford Howard.
Thank you, Stanford. Over to football news. Andre Charles has been appointed football ambassador of the village of Paramakatoy after President of the Ghana Football Federation, Wayne Ford, conducted a successful community visit.
The GFF president appointed Andre Charles as a football ambassador of the village of Paramakatoy following his visit to the community from August 26 to 28. In a letter to Charles, Ford said, "I left your village with a renewed sense of purpose, clarity, and direction. The many wonderful memories and inspiring moments I took with me will be cherished for the rest of my life. Your beautiful Paramakatoy is a picturesque village that is second only to the warmth of its lovely people." The appointment will last for 1 year, and as part of Charles' responsibilities are to attend meetings with the Sports Council as a representative of the GFF president, attend GFF's annual congress, welcome visiting officials to the village on behalf of the GFF president, travel with the GFF president to regional events, and promoting the game of football throughout the region.
In international football, in Premier League soccer, the summer transfer window formally opened on July 1, closed at 23 hours British Standard Time on Thursday, August 31. Players who were free agents at the time will be able to join a new club afterwards. Transferred made before the close, PSA signed Kylian Mbappe on a loan with option to buy. Oxford signed midfielder Alex Mowat on a season-long loan from Championship club Barnsley. Ian Doyle has joined Oldham on loan from Preston. Rochdale has taken Jordan Williams on loan from Liverpool, while Jordan Graham has joined Fulham from Wolves for the season. And Sheffield United have signed Ben Heneghan from Motherswell for an undisclosed fee on a 3-year deal. Sanchez move to Man City looks to be off despite a £6 million bid. That is all we have for this edition of the HGP Sportscast. Back to you, Travis.
COI chairman submits report to the president, more fearful for the office of the president than his own life, says President Granger. Jagdeo says 2020 elections has to be a must-win for the PPP. Argentine professionals coming at the weekend to help restore priceless Guyanese artwork. And GWI billing system non-functional. Report on new billing system to be submitted soon. Those were our major headlines. For these stories and more, you can go to our website. It's www.hgptv.com. I'm Travis Chase. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.